Hey, my Legion, how y'all doing today? I'm here today to review a wrestling documentary called Marking Out. I saw it on Amazon. It was after I saw the Ted DiBiase documentary last week. I want to see what else was available. And they had something about Marking Out. I never heard it before. And of course, Marking Out is like the carny speak that they have in the old days of wrestling. A mark is like someone watching wrestling and believes it is a fan. And marking out is like going nuts over like a move or something like that, marking out. And they try not to use that term mark or anything like that in WWE. They say fans and they say the WWE universe, you know. But I mean that's the term that it was about like these few guys who wanted to do a podcast. People ask me to do a podcast. I do so much now. Just listen to one of my videos and just listen to it and don't watch the visual part. That's a podcast for me. I mean, they have a podcast. I think the name of it, they want to do one about wrestling, and they said they were all fans who were embarrassed by liking wrestling. They call themselves closeted wrestling fans, and a lot of this is like interviews with people who are embarrassed about wrestling or talking to wrestlers and stuff. And I think their name of their podcast was brilliant, the Figure Forecast. So I said forecast, figure forecast. Figure four is a move. The figure four leg lock is a move, and then like the forecast, I think that was a brilliant title. And they go, they talk some about the pro stuff, and they show some collections and stuff, and they said we're not getting younger, and they said that they're embarrassed talking about it because some people really don't like wrestling at all. I remember like going to see Uncle Rick and Aunt Helen, and they're still alive. I just don't see them anymore. I would, I bought a bunch of wrestling books, and when I was done, I just gave it to him. I said, you can keep. But he didn't like talking about wrestling. Dad said he doesn't like talking about wrestling. Not like talking about it. Why he doesn't like talking about when we go over there and say he's probably embarrassed to know what to talk about. Well, I say I know you don't like to talk about wrestling, but he mentioned show Hardcore Pawn, right? I know from what Dad said you don't like talking about wrestling, but did you see on Hardcore Pawn about Lex Luthor when he was in there? He looked all shriveled up. And oh man, he lost all his muscles and stuff like that. I talked about that. I said that, and we did talk about wrestling being a dark business because I remember let him, after I read Chyna's autobiography, let him read it. And Chyna had a tough life. Like, damn. I mean, and some of the wrestlers did too. I mean, they really did. And and they interview a bunch of people, fans, and also wrestlers too. Most of it, I mean, they have like a little bit WWE. I mentioned big wrestlers, but they have like a lot of it's the independents. I remember some of them because back when I was really watching wrestling, they used to have something called Fox Sports Ohio. I don't know if they still have it or not. And then Sunday nights at 10 o'clock or something like that, they had something called PWO, Pro Wrestling Ohio, at least for the most part. And then they have like an ECW show. Not ECW, UFC show after it. And it'd be an hour of wrestling, and it was like the amateurs. Like they had Matt Cross. I mean, some of these people actually did do some stuff on WWE. Like Zach Gowen was in there. I remember him do his premiere, and he was there for about a year or so. And he was a one-legged wrestler. He lost his leg to cancer, sadly. I remember there was a scene, I think, when he left him, Big Show threw him down a flight of steps for real. I was like, damn. That was still pretty cruel, though, But I mean, that's the thing, and I don't think. And then I didn't see him anymore, and I figured that, he was in the independents, along with Gregory Irons, who, another handicapped wrestler who has cerebral palsy for real. I mean, he really has it. I remember seeing them both on Pro Wrestling Ohio. They talked to Matt Fontaine. I remember him. He was the mustache guy. PWO. And then they talked to Matt Cross a little bit, and he was trying to get on that Tough Enough or something like that. Steve Austin really ripped into him, saying he was old-timey, saying he didn't know anything. But I always thought Matt Cross did a good job. And there might have been two other wrestlers I might have heard of. I mean, aside from the big-name ones. Yeah, I mean, they interviewed and they talked about us independents like Lazarus or something like that. It was supposed to be family-friendly, interactive wrestling where like the wrestlers would interact with the fans and stuff. That's cool. That would definitely bring back my passion for wrestling because I don't really watch WWE anymore. I did watch SmackDown though Friday, and it was okay. I'm not really motivated to really watch another episode because I always forget it's on Fox. I did watch that Friday. It's really an interesting show. And they talk about old time wrestling that happens only once a year. Yeah, I mean these are like the small, teeny tiny where you might get a crowd of 200 or 300 people or something like that. But it was really cool, and they really they talked, and they do the interviews too. And one guy at the beginning of the show from the podcast talked about, and I had the same experience getting an autograph from Greg the Hammer Valentine. He was going to get his belt, and I think he wanted $30. I picked a photo. I think it was like $40. It was expensive at the Comic-Con. And then, he didn't seem too all that enthused. He was okay though. I mean, because I didn't know what to do. I just walked up and he pointed over there to his assistant. I was okay, and I said, "Well, what's your name?" And and so I said, "Okay." So I had to get his name, and then he gave the thing to him, and he told me to pick a photo. And I picked like a bloody one on like a wrestling cover with him on the cover. And he said, "Oh, you picked a good one." Yeah, and he said, I think he said Jason. He said he pronounced my name wrong, which is okay. And he's like, shake my hand and say, "Okay, it's cool." I said, "It was so cool when I remember you tag team with Honky Tonk Man Rhythm Blues." He just gave a little laugh, and that was it. But he didn't seem that enthusiastic about, but I mean, I made him laugh, so that was cool. Big League John McChesney was, more but he wasn't in the documentary. They talked about that. I mean, the movie, for the most part, was good. Most of the interviews and showing a little bit of wrestling. What I didn't like is, I mean, sometimes the guys that host the podcast, it's their movie, but sometimes I think they thought they were a little funnier than they thought they were. Because they did like a Blues Brothers reference type joke in the beginning, and it wasn't funny. And then they did a reverse version of that towards the very end, it wasn't funny. With a scene where, like I said, they're embarrassed of their collection. I guess this guy had a huge collection of wrestling shirts. They show the guy in his closet just looking through them and said, "You never show these to anyone?" No. And he said, "Well, here's the last one. You're pretty safe wearing that one." And so I don't know about the Rusev one that had like the Russian cross on the front and stuff like that. And the scene went on for 5 minutes. It was pointless. It didn't do anything for the movie. That should have been cut out. And then there was a scene where this was really unnecessary because they were going to Washington, D.C. They talk about on a podcast. I mean, you can have this part. I mean, they talk about podcasts. They're going to go do some B-roll stuff, more interviews and stuff with people. I think they did a little bit of interviews, but most of it was BS bullshit. And, let's see, what was it? They were going to do it, and then the Pope was there at the same time. They didn't know the Pope was going to be there. And he said traffic sucked real bad, and the guy forgot to get gas and ran out of gas. And they thought, "Oh, that's real funny." And then they showed them in their car trying to drive through Washington, D.C. in different clips and stuff for like 10 minutes. And then they showed their hotel room. And then they decided since they couldn't get stuff they wanted today, they went ahead and did something else. They all sat in the chair and talked about how bad the traffic was and running out of gas and stuff. That they repeated it for the third time, and that was really a waste of time. And said the next day, and the guy, like, one guy was in a robe, and he took off his robe, and he went like this, looking out the window. But then they cut everything. They censored all that, but that whole thing was stupid. That was a waste of time. They easily cut. I mean, it's an hour and 41 minutes. They could have whittled that down to 90 minutes, no problem. They had some, bloopers at the very end. That's fine. Any credit, but I mean, that was a pointless scene. And they repeated themselves 3 times. They just told the story, and then, well, that's about it. And they had a couple of interviews, and that was it. And the guy, I mean, it's a fascinating show, but I mean, they could have done without a couple of those things. About 19 minutes or so. But for the most part, I like the show. I like the independent stuff. I would love to see more stuff like that. And I guess they had like a raffle for a bunch of fans to ride in a limousine with, I can't remember the guy's name, and then Sassy Sherry or something like that. Sassy Susie or something like that. And I thought that was interesting. Like I said, the old time stuff, I mean, all the interviews were interesting, and then I was like, people were just embarrassed to admit they like wrestling. I was like, there's far more worse things to like than wrestling. But there's like people were stopped. Even while I was just going, it's fake, it's fake, it's fake. Just like I remember this one guy, I borrowed this Devo album cassette. It was Are We Not Men, We're Devo from this one guy. And then one guy saw it and he went all the way back just to tell me, hey, Devo's a bunch of fags. And he came back, and, you know, it was like the people stopped and assholes. And then they said this guy, I remember he got like something for Citizen of the Year. So he's full of shit. He's a piece of garbage. Someone I went to school with. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. I never liked the guy anyway. Then when he took time out of his day to do that, he made him a bigger piece of garbage. So, but no, I give the movie decent marks. Like 7 out of 10 for marking out. I think you'll like it's an interesting documentary. They could have just cut out a couple of those unnecessary parts. But aside from that, it's really good. So I hope you like this video, everybody. Till next time, please take care of my legion.